Hi, Body Messiah. Today we're going to do a brief continuation, well, actually, like some insight into Jeremiah chapter 30, specifically verse 14. So in Jeremiah 30, verse 14, it speaks of your lovers have forgotten you. Remember, this is a part of UBP, Uncovering Biblical Prophecy, Lesson 16. And we're going to call this part 4. We're digging deep into this so that we, in the body of Messiah and descendants of Patriarch Abraham and ancient descendants of Israel, can make sure we draw closer to the Most High God in the latter days. And we need to point out this particular statement made in prophecy, where the Most High God is mentioning to us that our lovers have forgotten us. Lovers is what we had in this little depiction of the previous video when we covered the biblical prophecy of Jeremiah chapter 30, which is unfolding now and will continue to unfold as time moves on. But here's the depiction that we gave of all your lovers. And we gave various examples here. All your lovers are considered things that you place on a level of importance before the Most High God and His standards and statutes. So when you look at this, it can be anything from your job to religious denominations to fraternal orders. It goes all the way down to like things that occur in Hollywood, Hollyweird, as we call it. You're more dedicated to it than the Most High God. It even goes down to New Age practices and satanic religions and practices. We have things that we didn't include on here, like loving your car or material values more than the Most High God. We even have things on here that we didn't include, like as we consider now today, we're having the NFL or National Football League and college football go on. And you'll see the whole crowd just swaying and swooning and screaming until their voices have gone hoarse to glorify their football team or certain players and their activities. And some of the people even glorify this particular thing. They live for it and glorify it more than the Most High God. Some, not all. Now we need to be reminded of this, to be aware of your lovers, because God is reiterating the fact they will forsake you. No one's going to be there for you more than me. And you need to keep your focus on me, the Most High God, the creator of the universe. He goes on to say, when you look in verse 17, after he's telling Jacob, all of your lovers have forsaken you, I'm the one who's going to completely restore you. I'm your healer. So we're in this pivotal time in America and throughout the world where we have to be reminded of that and understand that God's prophecies are continuously being fulfilled. As we mentioned at the beginning of the covering the prophecy in UBP Lesson 16 and Jeremiah 30, many people are running to and fro and they want a prophetic word from some leader. And they're totally, blatantly ignoring the prophecies that the Most High God gave thousands of years ago. And these prophecies have not been completely fulfilled, but they're being fulfilled right now. So let's go into detail about all your lovers so we can see the various ways in which we can get entangled in that behavior. Basically having an idol before the Most High God and causing us to sacrifice the standards of the Most High God. One lesson I would like you guys to go to, an old lesson, is the Why, the Whole House of Israel, lesson 7, where we show where the Bible proves that some Hebrews are descendants of the original Egyptian people who were African, black, and brown people, Hamitic Egyptians. Go 12 minutes into this lesson. And when you go 12 minutes into this lesson, I think it's about a 22-minute lesson, you will see how we're explaining that God humbled the Egyptians. He humbled the whole kingdom of Egypt because they were so prideful and honoring little g's, all of these various things, everything but the Most High God. So it's troubling when you see this trend of many black and brown Hebrew people turning back towards these idols of ancient Kemet or Egypt. Because didn't you not see what God did to humble the entire kingdom, of the Egyptian kingdom? We don't need to fall back down that path. And see, it even says in this lesson we cover how God has broken their pride and bust them down basically to the stubs, to humble them. But he also says in the book of Isaiah that he's going to turn their heart back to him. So much so that they're going to build a worship center to honor the Most High God. So we have to be extremely mindful of this particular fact and understand that we cannot attract and have something that's before the Most High God. Okay, sorry about that, Body Messiah. I have another old lesson that we can speak of because I want to point out how over time there are various activities that have occurred specifically in the U.S. that shows how the black and brown descendants of Israel were pivotal in a spiritual change or move in which God is probing the hearts of every man to see if they can be counted among the children of the Most High God. There's a lesson we have out here, an older lesson that I want you to refer to, and it's TBON, Take Back Our Narrative, Lesson 8, where we cover black and brown Hebrews. Okay, this is called TBON, Lesson 8, and the title of this is Black and Brown Hebrews Are Not Anti-Semitic. And they're not, because they're the original Shemites. So they can't be they'd be against themselves if they were anti-Semitic. But in this particular lesson is where we cover in Surgical Bible Study the statement that Mr. Nick Cannon, Deshaun Jackson, and Minister Louis Farrakhan, a statement that people were saying was false. We proved it was a true summary of some statement that Hitler or the Nazi regime made. And we proved to you because there's a Jewish historian named Robert Herstein who validated this. He was integral to uncovering all types of historical documents of the Nazis. So he wanted the whole world to see their evil plans and the things that they stated. And so it proves that what they were talking about during that time period, the black and brown Hebrews were saying, is true. So what we cover at the end of this particular lesson is a time phase in 1776, 1865, 1965, and then fast forward about 50 years later, 2012 or 2015 to present. Integral moments in which the nation of America is having a spiritual awakening or calling in which a decision has to be made. Whether they're going to hold on to their lovers or they're going to honor the standards of the Most High God. So let me give you an example of how we broke this time frame down. In 1776, you had the War for Independence, where the American colonizers were fighting for independence against the European nations and countries. They didn't want to pay taxes, and they wanted to continue the slave trade because they were making millions of dollars and they benefited financially in building up a huge nation based off the oppression of black and brown Hebrew people. Okay? They didn't want to end that, so they fought and warred against the European countries for, quote, independence, while at the same time severely oppressing the descendants of Israel. Okay? So there was warring and bloodshed that occurred, but this was kicked off by the death or the murder of Crispus Attucks, who was a ancient descendant of Israel. He was murdered, right? So this is a moment in which America needed to decide whether they were going to hold on to all their lovers, right? Whether it's the institution of building up a kingdom, a Babylonian kingdom, in which they were glorifying their finances and building it up off the backs of the oppression of other people. Okay? So this is where God was probing the heart of every man, woman, and child of whether or not they can be counted amongst the Most High God. So you had to decide whether you were going to fight and honor the standards of the Most High God, spiritually, on a spiritual level, we hadn't even gotten to the physical part, or you're not. You're going to go about your way and do whatever you please, what pleases you, in order to hold on to your lovers, whether they were material values, materialistic, having a house build, having to own land and enslave people in order to work that land and make more money off of it. Or even if you were deciding in yourself spiritually and you knew it was wrong to oppress people, whether or not you were going to hold on to this arrogance and your lover being white supremacy so that you can feel special or better. Okay? That's a part of holding on your lovers. In 1865, you fast forward 90 years at least later, where the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. Once again, this is a moment in which America was so-called attempting to grant freedom to my ancestors. And Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, we covered this in Psychical Bible Studies. I'm not positive of what lesson. I think it was like trust God more than your vote was the lesson. But anywho, we covered that there are historical documents that show where Abraham Lincoln, how he got to the moment in which he signed the Emancipation Proclamation or even considered it. It was because the war between the North and the South, and there were so many so many white men, women, and children dying because of this war. This war in which they were fighting who would keep owning and oppressing my people. Okay? And because so many white people were dying, Abraham Lincoln felt like God was judging America because of slavery. And that's true. So he made a vow to the Most High God that if the Most High God allowed him to win a particular war, he would sign the Emancipation Proclamation. And that's what happened. And that's how we got to the signing of this Emancipation Proclamation of setting all the slaves free. And he knew it would probably cost him his life, but he made a vow to the Most High God that he had to keep. So we fast forward. During that period of 1865 to 1965, you're going up to civil rights. During this 100-year time frame, you still have us Black and brown Hebrews warring for just equal standards under the law. Because you have the incorporation of America passing Jim Crow laws, where a Black person could not drink from the same water fountain as a white person, use the bathroom, be taught in the same school, quote, talk to and live in the same neighborhood, even be buried in the same burial area as a white person. Okay? So this struggle is going on still, fighting for equal rights and standards under the law. You have all these Jim Crow laws that oppress continuously our people in another type of slavery. Okay? Learn about the 13th Amendment. Okay? There is, I think, Ava DuVernay has a video out dealing with that. And you'll understand how this systematic oppression continues until today. So you still have that pivotal moment in which, based on issues that the beast and Babylonian system are bringing against the actual descendants of Israel, where every individual person, it don't matter what color they are, even Black and brown Hebrews themselves, have to decide whether or not they're going to cleave to their lovers or cleave to the Most High God and honor people based on God's standard and his system of judgment. Are they going to hold on to systemic oppression because it's easier for them to live their life off the backs of other people's oppression? They have to decide whether or not they're going to hold on to their lovers. You have a lot of Black and brown Hebrews who joined organizations or political parties, hoping this was going to bring them more freedom and cause them to be outstanding citizens and living the right way according to the Babylonian system, holding on to these lovers who still don't love them, care for them, and still mistreat them until this day. Okay? God is steady probing the heart. Now, when you come to the present time, like I felt a sense in 2012, but it was huge during 2015, at least 50 years later after the civil rights movement. So from the civil rights movement, you still have people fighting for equality, just equal rights under the same standards of the law. Black and brown people. Oh, the biggest fight was over voting. They try to hype that up like that's the greatest thing on since sliced bread for black people to have the right to vote. And it's great for those who are fighting and warring in that battle. But if they hold on to that right to vote more than holding on to the standards of the Most High God and pledging their heart to Him, then even that becomes a lover because it's not going to save you. When Abraham Lincoln was called before the Most High God to do what he had to do, there was no voting in place for black people. Okay? So understand that God is saying, whatever you make your lover is going to forsake you. Now, as we fast forward and we saw in 2012 to 15, all of a sudden there's another change in the spiritual realm in which people have to make a decision. You have all these shootings of unarmed black men and women and murders happening before the world, and the murderers going free. And it was as if God was saying, wake up, my people. You're asleep. You've gotten comfortable with your lovers. All of a sudden, you've gotten comfortable. And now we have a African-American president. And you're getting too comfortable thinking that this is your solution. And I told you to trust in me. I'm the one who's going to fully restore you. I'm the one who's going to heal you. So it was as if God is making another pivotal change in the spiritual realm. And He's seeing who can be counted amongst the sons and daughters of the Most High God. He's probing our spirit. Are you going to get lost in the sauce and fuss over politics, police brutality to the point where you forget about God? Or are you going to continue to call on Him and let Him continue to judge and probe the heart and place people at His altar? Okay? People were steady just going through this tumultuous time, and God is steadily saying, are you cleaving to some lovers? There are people who were in these fraternal orders of police, and they were like, no matter what, I'm a la, because I'm bonded more with this organization than the Most High God. There were people who were bonded to religious denominations. Let me give an example. When you look at like the Baptist convention or whatever for the South or whatever, there was a moment in which the black pastors and leaders called out the white pastors and leaders about being honest about this injustice and fighting against it and partnering with them. And there was a rift because the white pastors and leaders felt we need to continue to ignore this. It's no big deal because they were still attached to their lovers of white supremacy and the arrogance in their spirit and their mind that no, I don't want to piss off anyone else, that's associated with the Fraternal Order of Police or men. But God is probing to see where you're going to choose right, or are you going to hold on to your lovers? For those black ministers and pastors, it's a moment in which He was saying, you are not to do things to honor man. You're supposed to be honoring me. And if that means you got to rip away from it and let it go, that's what you do. Because He's calling you back to His standards, back under His shield of protection for such a time of this as this great awakening is occurring. And so now we come to the present time where Satan, through fear, is causing another faction of division throughout the body of Messiah, throughout the whole world. And he's doing it not much so on racial lines. He's doing it through another tactic of manipulation, which is fear. Now you have groups that are dividing and splitting who have chosen to take the predecessor and those who have not. And now there's fighting amongst and division amongst them. Listen, body Messiah, I have friends out there, some who have taken it, some who have not, and we're still friends because you know what? We unite for the good for them who love the Most High God. We love Him first and foremost. Yeah, some on this side feel the other one made an ignorant decision and vice versa. Some on this side feel these folks have made an ignorant decision. But what we do know, according to scripture, is we're not yet to the mark of the beast being incorporated. So until any people in any group, until they blatantly decide to serve Satan and bond with Satan and accept the mark and decide to worship Satan, then still we are warned to stick together for the glory of the Most High God's kingdom and unifying and doing the good for others. Okay? But now that this division is occurring, you have seen people who were actual fighters for civil rights, right? During the 1960s, who now are taking on the mannerism of our oppressors. Black and brown Hebrews who used to fight for equality and the right of the pursuit of happiness, right? An individual's right and equality. Now take on the mannerism and the attributes of our oppressors by saying, if you do not take this predecessor, you should not be allowed to work. Basically saying, you should be oppressed and subjected to oppression if you make a choice to not take the predecessor. Man, it kind of hurt when I saw some of our Hebrew brothers do that and say that. And I know their mind has been manipulated by Hasatan through fear in order to cause division. And I pray that they awaken to what they're saying and doing and come back to the side of right. Because God does not want us judging one another and causing division. Okay? There is going to be intensity of the things that are falling and the judgments that are falling. It's amazing that the people during the civil rights era who were warriors for justice and equality, right? They didn't have a lover but to do what was right in the eyes of the Most High God back in the 60s, right? But now all of a sudden they're trusting in this predecessor and it's becoming their lovers. Because they love to go back to, quote, normal, to be able to party or go out and go to football games or basketball games. They're holding on to these lovers and not thinking in their right mind. It's not right in the eyes of the Most High God for us to oppress our brothers and sisters. Period. The end. Every individual has to choose what's best for them, their body, and their family. These same people, some of them are warriors for a woman's right to choose whether or not to have an abortion. But all of a sudden, when it comes to this predecessors, they're telling people you have no rights. That's amazing how Satan has gotten in and manipulated people. And the Most High God is trying to let people know that all your lovers, including those who trust in the predecessor, and let me not just jump on folks like that. Let's look at folks who have not taken the predecessor and they trust in their diet, right? Being vegetarian or being a health a fanatic more than the Most High God. It's also their lovers. I've had to talk to some people. Fortunately, none of my friends, because we understand and respect one another. But there are those people who are like, I don't understand why people have an issue. What's going on? And why are they being so ignorant and not wanting to do this so things can get back to normal? And I've had to dig and pull up the research, even that I've found coming from the CDC, that has been buried and smothered by the mainstream media. And I found this particular person who has placed this out there, and I think he's a researcher. I don't know if he's a researcher from the field of IT or actually the medical field, but even on his channel, he's put up these studies from the Centers for Disease Control, CDC. And I said, when you look at these articles, tell me why you trust so much in this particular possible solution and think that's the only way, when even that is probably going to fail in the end. Okay? So here's one of the articles I want to share with you. And as you can see here, I got underlined in orange, the latest from the CDC. And the title is COVID Outbreak in Duke University. They have a vaccination rate of 97.8% fully vaccinated, but they're having an outbreak of COVID. Here's another one from the CDC, and Mr. Tony Lynn has placed it out there too, researcher. So here is the next one. CDC reports COVID outbreak in San Francisco hospital. 75 to 80% are fully vaccinated. But yet there's an outbreak. They keep talking about these breakthrough, cases. Listen, Body Messiah, I'm going to say it and continue to say it inside your co-Bible studies. Is going to continue to reiterate this plague, all of these various natural disaster judgments that are falling. Even more plagues will probably come if man, no matter what side you're on, who you want to represent, does not humble themselves before the Most High God. All these people are running to and cleaving to their lovers. And when you look in Jeremiah chapter 30, he's saying, I'm the one who's going to restore you. So if man does not humble, oh well, these judgments are going to continue to fall until our Messiah returns. But make sure you, Body of Messiah, do not cleave to anything more than the Most High God and his standard. He is our shield and our protection. Now, I want you guys to go out there. I'm going to attach 2 videos to the description. And one is an encouraging song. One is basically a person giving his view who's in the NBA about his choices and how he respects other people's choices. And I wanted to share it because he does it in such an intelligent, humble, and honorable way. This is how all in the body of Messiah should behave. Please don't get distracted and let Satan run you with fear to cause division. So this person's name is Jonathan Isaac. I'll attach an interview with him, the NBA. And I mean, the way he intelligently addresses the situation we're facing today, and explaining how to respect other people. We all should be this way. All of us. And then this one right here is a song called I Am, where the psalmist named Jason Nielsen is talking about the Most High God, as if the Most High God is telling you, trust me, I'm all you're going to ever need. Okay? And he does it in such a beautiful way. We have to listen to that and be reminded of how omnipotent and powerful our Most High God is. Even if we feel like the world is crumbling down around us and things are falling apart, trust the Most High God. He's trying to let us know, I am. I'm the ruler of the universe. Everything is under my control. Everything that's happening is meant to humble us. So, Body Messiah, make sure you do not fall into the trap of trusting any lover more than the Most High God, because he is our only solution in these latter days. Well, Body Messiah, this is the end of this lesson. I thank you so much for joining me. And like I always say, may Adonai Elohim cover and surround you and your family, shield and protect you all, and envelop you in his shalom peace. Goodbye.